Hello everyone, I'm Julian of Julian Creates and welcome back as we do another sew along. This time we are doing it for my latest KnowMe pattern, which is ME2153. What I love about this pattern and where I got inspiration from was really focusing on tailored style. Especially after last year's Met Gala or this year's Met Gala, super fine, tailoring the black body and black style. Really wanted to focus on more tailored elements and almost build a uniform for myself. And I realized for me, what I love is a nice vest and pants combo. Especially something that has some unique features. For this one, we have the vest with some asymmetrical styling, especially with that triangle shape and the buttons. So it creates like a diamond or a triangle effect with the buttons. And the pants that aren't shown here is that they have a Gurkha style waist, meaning that it basically does not have belt loops, but has buckles at the sides so that you can have some adjustability in your waistband. So today we're really going to focus on view A, which is our vest. Let's get started. So here are the pieces that you're going to need to make KnowMe 2153 view A, which is the vest. You will need piece 1, which is the front. You will need 4 of fabric, 2 of interfacing. You will need piece 2, which is the side front. You will need to cut 2 of fabric and then 2 of your lining fabric. You will need piece 3, which is your upper welt. You'll cut 1 of fabric, 1 of interfacing. Then you will need piece 4, which is your upper pocket. You'll cut 1 of lining. You will also need piece 5, which is your upper pocket facing. You'll cut 1 of fabric and 1 of interfacing. Then you will need piece 6. This is your lower welt. You will cut 2 of fabric and 2 of your interfacing. Then you have your lower pocket, which is piece 7. You'll cut 2 of your lining fabric. You will then need your lower pocket facing, which you will cut 2 of fabric and 2 of interfacing. For your last 2 pieces, you will need to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of your lining for your back pieces. And then for piece 10, which is your side back, you will cut 2 of fabric and 2 of lining as well. So get this all cut out, get your interfacing pasted to your fabric pieces, and we can get started. All right, to start off our vest, we're going to start with piece 1, which is our fronts. So we have 4 of these pieces cut, 2 of them interfaced. So these will be your outside pieces, and the non-interface ones will be your facing pieces. So what we're going to do first is we are going to go ahead and stay stitch all along the inside edge, okay? So all along kind of what would be the collar or around your neckline, as well as the bottom line, because these are cut on the bias, and we want to make sure that they do not stretch out. So we're going to do that to all 4 pieces. While we're at the sewing machine, we can go ahead and start to connect our side fronts to our fronts. So we are going to take the fabric pieces for the side fronts and connect them to the interfaced version of our fronts at matching all of our notches along this curved edge, basically making a princess seam. Once that's done, we will go ahead and clip our seams and press them open. Now, I'm going to do things a bit out of order as well, is because basically we'll be baking this vest twice because we'll also be making the lining. So I'm also, while I'm at the machine, going to do the same thing, adding my side front linings to my uninterfaced or front facings and sewing those all together as well. So let's take that to the machine and get that handled. So now that we have gone ahead and made both of our fronts as well as our front like lining and facing, let's go ahead and start focusing on pockets. Now, as you can see here, I've already done the welt pockets on this side and I would say they look pretty good. So you have a pocket here that's nice and faced, but you can also see the lining that's in there and a pocket here for a nice handkerchief. And this top pocket is only on your left-hand side. So now that I've done those pockets, we're going to do the pocket on the right-hand side, which is done the same exact way. So before we do that, there is some prep that we need to do. So I want you to take your welt piece, you're going to fold it wrong sides together, give it a press, and baste along the open edge at 5/8 of an inch. Then go ahead and make sure that you have all your markings on your piece. Here I'm using a heat erasable pen to add my markings, as well as because I use white thread to kind of mark my seam line, because that seam line is going to line up with the markings of the square of your pocket. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to baste your welt down, fold side down along the bottom edge of the markings of your pocket, so between the dots. While at the machine, another piece of prep that you can do is you can go ahead and finish the edge of your lower pocket facing. And you will do this to all your pocket facings. What I did was I went ahead and did it through a serger. So I used my Burnett B68 maker and just did a 4 thread because that's what I had it threaded for. But you can also fold this edge down and kind of baste it in place. And then you're going to top stitch this down on top of your pocket lining piece. So along this edge, at the matching the dots and different things like that. Or what you can do is I just make sure that it's at the top of the piece so that when these notches come together, you are able to see which one is the top and which one is the bottom. Now, this is a pocket. If it don't quite line up, or if you're using like a slippery fabric like me that kind of shifts out of place, gives you a little forgiveness, it will be okay. And when we're putting the pocket together, we will not need to go ahead and finish these edges because they will be all within the lining. So you should be okay. So I've gone ahead and attached my facing to my pocket piece, and we went ahead and pinned it right sides together. So right side of the pocket to the right side of the front of the garment. And the way that I do it is I line it up along the edge of the welt piece that we've already basted down. Now, a lot of people will put the dots here and sew it from the front side. I have found it to be easiest and to make sure that I'm hitting my marks if I pin it on the wrong side, and then I'm able to follow my stitch line and literally stitch along this line to attach my pocket piece. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to go and cut open our welt. Now, one of the things that I also do to kind of help make it easier, before I cut it open, you can go ahead and put a line of stitching or baseline right at the top of your welt. So that's going to help to make sure that you have a clean line to fold on when you go ahead and start to press your square for your welt out. So let's go ahead and do those 2 lines of stitching. All right, so now that I have sewn on my pocket bag and cut open my welt, you can see that we have the beginnings of a nice looking welt pocket. I did go ahead and give this a nice press, but nothing else has been sewn. This is just from pressing it and using a clapper or a hard piece of wood just to kind of help to set the press in place. If you do not have one of those, put your hand on it till it cools down. The way that I always think of is that your fabric is kind of like hair when you are wanting to like put it through a curling iron or something like that. You are heating up fibers and then you want to set it so that it can stay in the place that you want to put it in till it cools. So this is just helping to set your press. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it to the other side and we're going to match up our notches here. So we match up our notches here. And with my fabric, it's a little squiffy, but that's okay. Also realizing that your pocket is going to be a little bit out of sync as well, just because your pocket has an angle to it. Okay. So the biggest thing is you want to make sure that the top edge of your facing and stuff like that meets up with the top edge of your pocket that you have kind of folded in place so that we can then go ahead and sew that in place. What I like to do before I sew that here, go ahead and sew down your triangles. So when you have went ahead and cut open your pocket, you did not sew along this edge here. So you should be able to see these small triangles on either side. So you want to go ahead and sew that line down. So that will then go ahead and set your welt in place. Once you have done that, go ahead and match up your top edge here. Sew that in place. And then you can complete sewing down the side seams of your pocket. Again, you do not need to finish these edges because this is lined. So we're going to finish this and then we can start focusing on the back because our pockets are done. So now that we have done our fronts and got our pockets all together, let's start focusing on our back. So we're going to start with piece number 9. So remember, you do have 2 of your fabric and 2 of your lining of this piece. What you're going to do is go ahead, match your triple notch for your center back. Go ahead and sew this together, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and go ahead and press that seam open. Once that's done, go ahead and stay stitch your neckline. Do the same thing to your lining piece. Once you have done that, similar to how we did the front, we are going to add our side back pieces. So we're going to add our side backs to the side of our back piece, matching our notches, making that princess-like seam. And do that to both your lining as well as to your outer piece. So now that we have completed our backs and added our side backs to it, everything is pressed open. We will now sew on our fronts to our back piece, right sides together, at the shoulder seams, matching our notches. And if you can, I try to match my seams as well. So we'll take this to the sewing machine and make sure we do a straight stitch. I like to stitch from the outside in on both sides. You'll do the same thing to the lining layer. So now that we have our outside shell sewn up at the shoulder seams, as well as our lining shell sewed up at the shoulder seams, we're going to put them on top of each other, right sides together, matching up our notches. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew around the bottom edge here, the armholes, the bottom edge along the front, and the whole entire front edge and neckline. Make sure that you leave your sides open. So you want to do the armholes, but you're going to leave your sides open. Then once we have done that, we will go in and do some edge stitching. Not edge stitching, we'll do some understitching. There we go. Understitching as far as you can to make sure that all that seam allowance is going towards your lining pieces. And I will show you what that looks like at the machine. So now that we have done the main sewing, putting this all together, we are now going to go in and understitch all your seam allowances towards your lining fabric. That's going to make sure that your lining does not kind of peek out anywhere along the edge. This is going to provide like a clean look, no top stitching. But if you wanted to top stitch or edge stitch, that's also an option as well. Because this will require a little bit of origami. So currently I do not have it turned out. And literally I am going on the inside and going to scrunch this all up so that I can then sew it. So do what works best for you. All right, so now that we have sewn everything together and gone ahead and did as much understitching as we could, only area that is really not understitched is kind of when it gets a little bit tight up into these areas and in the back. But easy still to do. You can go through one of the sides to get to this area. Or again, you can do some edge stitching if you feel that the lining is going to roll out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through one of the back sides. And kind of pull from one side. We'll come through this side. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Bringing the front through the back side. You also want to make sure, take your time as you start to kind of put your hands through it. Start turning it all the way through. Taking your time. But most importantly, once you start to do this, or after you have finished doing that, what you're going to do is you're going to take it and give it a good press before we can start working on closing up your side seams. So now that we have gone ahead and turned out our vest, we've done some understitching, making sure that that lining is kind of facing towards the inside of our garment. Now we're going to focus on closing the sides. Now, to show an example, this side is already closed up and given a press, but the secret lies on the inside where there is still this little hole that we have to sew up. So on the other side, what we're going to do is we're going to put this, and usually, of course, it goes right sides together. And I like to pin and match up my seam lines. So we started our seam lines. And luckily, when you do it correctly, they kind of nest with each other. So we have from our seam line here up to this notch. So we pin from here. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew from that, or at least an inch into your lining, and sew all the way around, making sure your notches are together along this process. And you're kind of sewing it in around. And you're going to go as far as you can, still leaving a hole so that we can turn it out, and then we'll slip stitch it. I will give a better demonstration of this at the sewing machine. So now that we have this all pinned up, we are going in kind of, it looks a little bit weird under the machine, but we are going to start sewing up the lining and the side seam. So I have it all lined up under my machine. We're going to take our time, still using a 5/8 inch seam allowance. And of course, removing our pins as we go. And of course, if you're using a very fraytastic fabric like I am for the lining, definitely you can start to snip out some of these things because you don't want it to get caught up around your foot or anything like that. And it also just helps to make sure that you are able to keep a nice clean space as you're going. So as you can see here, some of this lining fabric is already getting caught. I just trim some of that away. And keep on going, taking my time. You're going to keep on doing that all the way around. So making sure that you're getting all of your main outside fabric and about as far as you can go onto your lining fabric on the other side. Usually I leave about a 2 to 3 inch opening that I then close by hand sewing. Now back at our table, we have gone ahead and sewn all of our edges up. And what we can see here is when we kind of fold it out, we can see that it leaves a nice kind of turned in pocket for our lining that we can then slip stitch together. And then from the outside, all of that is together as well. So to round out this vest pattern, I want you to go ahead and make sure you give this a press. Then go ahead and sew up with a slip stitch both of the openings. Then all you have to do is add your buttonholes and buttons, and you have a completed vest. Thank you so much for joining me.